Welcome back to the SnowPointcast. Today we're going to be taking a look at a deck from the 2019 World Championships called Pikarom. The list we're looking at today is the Kaiwen Cabbabe top 8 list. He's an Australian player who got top 8 at the World Championships this year. Let's get right into it. So starting off with 2 Pikarom, this is your main attacker in the deck. Very, very good card. 240 HP, Pikarom, first attack, lightning, full blitz for 150. Search your deck for up to 3 lightning energy cards and attach them to one of your Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. So great ramp there, just being able to accelerate. You can put it on the Pikarom. That's one of the first targets for it because the GX attack is based off having extra energy, or you could accelerate something on the bench if the Pikarom has the potential to go down, just to keep your momentum sustained. And with the ramp in the deck, there is a couple cards that are really good ramp in addition to full blitz. The energy acceleration in the deck is just so powerful. And then Tag Bolt GX, so lightning, does 200. If this Pokemon has at least 3 extra lightning energy attached to it, in addition to this attack's cost, this attack deals 170 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So that's obviously great for lots of reasons. I mean, 200 damage rather kills a lot of GX Pokemon in the format. So like Blacephalon is going to go down to that. Pretty much any basic GX is going to be dying to that. So because of that, you're able to take maybe a double 2-prize knockout and have a 4-prize turn. That's pretty common with Pikarom, is to go 200 on an active GX for a knockout, and then 170. Most of the time that 170 is going to be hitting a Dedenne because it's the most common support Pokemon in the format, and it has 160 HP, so it goes down to that. But great aggression, and honestly a card that can get really out of control if you don't address it accelerating to itself, and it just gets a double knock. Even if it's a double knockout turn, like even if it just goes like full blitz knockout, Tag Bolt GX double knockout, it can be too much momentum to bring back from Pikarom. So I was playing 2 Raichu and Alolan Raichu-GX. So 260 HP, a little bit more HP on this guy. Tandem Shock, Lightning Colorless, 80. If this Pokemon was on the bench and became your active Pokemon, this attack does 80 more damage, and your opponent's active is now paralyzed. So the reason that this is so good, I mean, obviously auto paralyze is very, very strong, but if you can't, I mean, Pikachu Zekrom, one of the weaknesses is you don't have a like tank bust damage attack. You don't have an attack that can just do tons of damage in one-shot tag team. So you kind of have to chip at things to 2-shot them. And while you're doing that, you may as well be paralyzing them. If you're paralyzing them while you're 2-shotting them, you pretty much have no worries about like them attacking you back. And then in addition, you also get to set them up for a potential knockout with the Raichu if you have a switch card, or with a Pikarom to full blitz if that's an option you have as well. And then also you can use this GX attack. It's a lot less common, but there are situations where it's good. Lightning Ride, Lightning Colors, 150. Switches Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. If this Pokemon has at least 2 lightning energy attached to it, in addition to this attack's cost, this attack does 100 more damage. So that is the like most damage attack that is in this deck, 250 damage. So it is good for killing a Pikarom. You can kill opposing Pikaroms with it, which is definitely good. However, most of the time you're going to want to be using Tag Bolt just because you get so much more value out of it as a GX attack. Okay, moving on to some of the support Pokemon. You're playing 3 Jirachi, so Jirachi's amazing. 70 HP. Stellar Wish. If this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you can make it fall asleep. And then look at the top 5 cards of your deck, pick a trainer that you find there, and then put it into your hand. So great support. And then also the metal typing comes in to another card a little bit later that I'm going to explain a little bit. And then you don't play metal energy, so you can't slap, unfortunately. But a retreat cost of 1, and you play Escape Boards too, so you can retreat after becoming asleep, which is definitely a great addition to the deck's consistency. You're also playing 2 Dedenne-GX. So Dedenne-GX, 160 HP, probably one of the most broken abilities in the format. It's so good. Pretty much every deck plays this card because of it. So when you bench Dedenne, you can discard your hand and draw a fresh 6. So it's great because you get lightning energy in your discard, which is going to come into play in a moment for Tapu Koko Prism Star. But then also just being able to draw more cards. I mean, you kind of just want to hit it's a combo deck, so being able to hit more cards just makes sense, obviously. You can Static Shock for 50. You can also Tingly Return GX for 50. And then your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed. Put this Pokemon on all cards in your hand. Out of all the times I've played Pikarom, I don't think I've ever used Tingly Return GX. If you do use Tingly Return GX, you're probably just going to lose that game anyway. But Tapu Koko Prism Star, this is another great card in the deck. Probably one of the best cards in the format too. Really, really strong card. 130 HP, Dance of the Ancients. Once during your turn, before you attack, if this Pokemon is on your bench, you may choose up to 2 of your benched Pokemon and attach a lightning energy from your discard pile to each of them. So obviously the 3 cost on Pikarom is kind of high. You can't really afford to just attach pass for 3 turns. Tapu Koko takes one of those out. So you can pretty much, like, there is a way to attack with Pikarom on turn 1, which is a Stadium, which we'll get to in a little bit. But Tapu Koko also really helps you get there. Sometimes you don't even need the Stadium because you play energy switches as well. So you can go Tapu Koko, bench it, accelerate to do things, attach to Pikarom, ramp to Pikarom, take the other energy switch, get to the active, attack with Pikarom. So it is really, this card makes it very possible to attack with Pikarom on turn 1. And that's kind of one of the early aggression threats of this deck is, I mean, if you get a full blitz on turn 1, 3 energy onto Pikarom, that is just a threat that you need to take out like immediately, or you probably lose the game because the Pikarom is going to be taking multi-prize turns on you next couple turns. Okay, so you're playing a Zapdos as well. This is kind of just a tech single prize attacker, just to make your opponent play a 7 prize game if they're not knocking out any Jirachis or anything. So 3 from Pikarom, 1 from Zapdos, 3 from a Raichu or another Pikarom. But so 110, Thunderous Assault for 10. If this Pokemon was on the bench and became your active Pokemon this turn, stack to 70 more damage. This attack's damage isn't affected by weakness or resistance. So just great damage. I mean, you're hitting 80 for 1, which is usually like pretty good. On average, it's usually 30 damage per 1 energy, maybe 40-ish now. But 80 for 1 is just a great exchange. So just such a cheap attacker that also lets you have some early aggression without putting a threat out if you miss the turn 1 Pikarom turn. You're also playing one Sigilyph-GX, so this is a really interesting card. I think it's mostly for the mirror, however, it does have a couple other really cool applications. So Sigilyph-GX, 170 HP, kind of on that lower HP side, unfortunately, but Mirror Counter makes that really solid. So Mirror Counter, if this Pokemon is your active Pokemon and is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon GX or Pokemon EX, even if it's knocked out, put damage counters on the attacking Pokemon equal to the damage done to this Pokemon. So one of the biggest things about this card is it's weak to lightning. So let's say you're playing the Pikarom mirror and your opponent's going second. Can be bad for you if they get the turn 1 Pikarom off. It just means that you're 1 turn behind on attacking, damage, etc. You probably lose at this point. But what you can do is you can just chuck a Sigilyph active and I mean, if they attack into it, they lose a Pikarom. So the prize trade is actually beneficial for you because you're taking a Pikarom out and sure, they're accelerating energy, but you're going up a prize and you're also not losing any energy, right? Like they're losing 3 energy off their Pikarom. Sure, they might be accelerating 3 from their deck onto something else, but they're also losing that energy and you're also going up a prize. So great card to just chuck active in the mirror to be like, hey, well, you can aggress me, but unless you have some kind of thing to switch out my active, you're going to be aggressing into a negative board state, which is just really cool. You can do it's just another one of those cards that like if you miss the Pikarom turn, you can do something with that if you don't have Zapdos or something else, and you don't play Psychic Energy, so you can't attack with it. No, yeah, I don't play Psychic Energy or any type of special energy that lets you attack with it. 2 retreats is a little bit of a pain, but you get there. You play one Zeraora-GX as well, so this is a great support Pokemon as well that can actually be a good attacker in some situations. So 190 HP, Thunderclap Zone. Each of your Pokemon that has any lightning energy attached to it has no retreat cost. So Darkrai EX for lightning Pokemon, which is fantastic. Just keeps all your guys mobile. I mean, you have pretty fat retreats on Pikarom and Raichu. Zapdos is 2, Sigilyph is 2, but this guy just as long as it has the energy on, you just have free retreats. So that's just keeps you really mobile. You play a lot of switching cards as well, but this is just another aspect of the deck that keeps your mobility. Lightning Color's Plasma Fist does 160. This Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. So this is a good attack to finish stuff off. Like I was saying, most of the time you're going to be 2-shotting things. And sometimes you want to put this active because a Zapdos might get knocked out or, you know, something like that. Whereas it can still force your opponent into an A-prize game with 3 on the tag team, 2 on the GX, and then 3 on another tag team. Or just force them to have custom catchers or something to win the game. And then Full Voltage GX. I have used this GX attack, so I will talk about it. Full Voltage GX. Attach 5 basic energy cards from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon in any way you like. So it happened off a really awful Dedenne-GX, but that is an attack that you can use, and it can make your board not so bad. I mean, if you're ramping to 2 tag teams and charging them up fully, yeah, your GX attack is lost, but at least you get to play the game. Okay, moving on to the trainer cards. So starting off with the most broken card in the deck, 4 Electropower. So Electropower is just insane. During your next turn, or during this turn, your lightning Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So that's broken. Like I said, you don't have any Pokemon that can do one-shot ability, but if you stack Electropowers with some of your higher power attacks, you can be one-shotting things that you aren't supposed to be one-shotting, just because the damage ramp is so crazy. Then we're also playing for Custom Catcher. So Custom Catcher, if you have 2 in your hand, you can play 2 at one time. switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with one of their active Pokemon. So just essentially a gust effect, which is great because you know, like with Pikarom, you usually want to be hitting stuff for like double knockout, and if you're hitting especially into like a Reshizard, you don't want to be hitting that for a ton of damage because then it hits you back for a lot of damage. But if you're just killing a 2-prizer and then killing a Dedenne, you're taking so much prize lead. Like taking a 4-prize turn with Pikarom is usually how it just wins the game because it's so far ahead at that point that all you need to do is take a 2-prize knockout and then you win. So custom catcher is a big part of that because of just how strong the card is. You can also play it if you have one, draw until you have 3, but be careful about using it like that unless you like need to do it to play the game, just because the effect when you have 2 is just so much more beneficial. I was playing for switch one of your opponents, or switch your active Pokemon rather with one of your bench Pokemon. So like I said, you have a pretty fat retreat cost for most of your guys. Jirachi as a support Pokemon falls asleep as well, so sometimes you need to switch out of there. And then with the Zapdos, there's just a lot of mobility and like changing what you're attacking with. The Raichu as well to paralyze. So 4 switch is kind of just a backbone to the deck because you really care about keeping your active mobile and being able to switch. You're playing 3 Electromagnetic Radar as well, so this card's great in any lightning deck. So you can play this card only if you discard 2 other cards from your hand, which seems bad, but it's actually kind of good with Tapu Koko Prism Star because you can discard lightning energies, and that kind of helps with your turn 1 consistency a little bit because Ultra Ball is not a card in the format. Search your deck for up to 2 in any combination of Lightning Pokemon GX, Lightning Pokemon EX, reveal them, and put them into your hands. So finds any of your GXs, except for Sigilyph, which is fantastic. And then you get 2 of them. So usually it's going to be like a Pikachu and a Dedenne, like a Pikarom and a Dedenne, but it really depends on what your hand looks like. Just a great setup card. Like to Reset Stamp as well, kind of your disruption item card. Your opponent shuffles their hand to their deck and then draws a card for each of their remaining prize cards. So it's one of them you usually want to wait until late game to use, like when your opponent's at 4 prizes or less, or if they have a really big hand, I guess you could use it. But usually you want to use it after they've taken a couple prize cards so that you can hopefully, like if you hit them with a Reset Stamp and hit them with a custom catcher Pikarom Tag Bolt turn, that can sometimes be enough to just like obliterate a board. Like sometimes if you have 2 things on their board that you want to take out that are like big to their board setup, like support Pokemon or something, and then you can kill both of them off in a turn and then also hand disrupt them, that can be enough to win games for sure. Even if you're not taking the crazy 4-prize turn, you can take like a 2 or 3-prize turn in addition to a disruption, and it's very powerful in this deck. You're also playing 2 Pokecom. Choose a Pokemon in your hand, show it to your opponent, put it on top of your deck, search your deck for Pokemon. So you play a fair amount of Pokemon, but it's mostly because there's not a ton of really great Pokemon search in this format that you are playing Pokemon Communication. You're also playing 2 Energy Switch. Switch an energy, basic energy attached to one of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. So like I was saying with Tapu Koko Prism Star, that just helps your acceleration early and lets you get more Pikaroms off. Or if you want to attack with a Raichu, you don't have to accelerate as many energy, like when you're short on energy or something. It just lets you be a little bit mobile with your energy. You can put one on a Zapdos, attack with the Zapdos kind of thing. I was playing one Tag Switch. So Tag Switch, move up to 2 energy cards, 2 energy from one of your tag team Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. So it's mostly for switching tag teams. Like you're going to be putting energy from here to here. However, you can put it on the Zeraora sometimes. But yeah, it's mostly going to be switching to the Raichu-GX so that you can switch to that pivot paralyzed point of the game if you don't have enough Electropowers to be taking an impactful knockout. I was playing 1 Escape Board, so this is definitely going to be going on a Jirachi. The retreat cost of the Pokemon this card is attached to is 1 colorless less, and it can retreat even if it is asleep or paralyzed. So great for Jirachi because you make yourself asleep, and then you also get that free retreat, so you can get the benefit of finding an item with Jirachi, but also switch into something else to attack for the turn. So that's always going to be going on a Jirachi, unless, I don't know, is Dedenne one? Dedenne's one. It can go on a Dedenne, I guess, if you need it to. But like most times it goes on a Jirachi because the great part about it is if you have it on a Jirachi, you can just promote the Jirachi in between knockouts. Like you get knocked out, you promote the Jirachi, and now you get a free item card to help support your hand out, which is really, really nice. I was playing on Cherish Ball. Search your deck for a Pokemon GX, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your deck. Obviously really good. You play a lot of GXs that are strong and just a really good card in the format. I'm playing on Stadium Nav as well. So Stadium Nav, flip 2 coins for each head, search your deck for a Stadium card, reveal it, and put it in your hand. Kind of a weird card, but because it's an item, it lets stadiums potentially be an out off Jirachi if you can find this card off Jirachi, which is great because, what a great transition, you play a Thunder Mountain. And Thunder Mountain is one of the best cards in the deck, one of the best cards in the format. The attacks of lightning Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's, cost 1 lightning less. So Pikarom can essentially attack for 2. It means you can go attach for turn, single Tapu Koko, get, if you have a Thunder Mountain, boom, you're swinging with full blitz. And then that early aggression, it's just, you have the Tapu Koko, the Thunder Mountain, and the full blitz from the Pikarom to just keep your lightning energy flowing on the board, and it keeps you really consistently attacking on turn 1 with the attackers that you want to be attacking with. And attacking with Zapdos for free is great as well. Just 1 lightning less on everything is just very, very strong. Such a busted Prism Star Stadium. You're playing 2 Lysandre Labs as well, so Pokemon tool cards in play, both yours and your opponent's, have no effect. So keep that in mind with an Escape Board, because you don't want to set yourself up promoted Jirachi if you have a Labs out and then get yourself trapped. But one of the reasons this card is really good is there's a lot of decent like tool cards in the format, Escape Board being one of them, and you can kind of just slow your opponent down by being like, hey, you don't get the Escape Board, I only have 1, but you play 4 basic Switch as well, so it's not that big of a deal, and there's a couple other tools in the format that are really good to shut off. Okay, so moving into the supporters, we got 4 Lillie. So Lillie, draw cards until you have 6 cards in your hand. If it's your first turn, you can play supporters on your first turn in this format. Draw until you have 8 cards in your hand. So definitely decent. But one of the problems about this format is there's not a ton of like amazing supporters. So you're kind of just like stuck with Lillie. Not the best supporter, but can be good if you have an Electromagnetic Radar or something. You can discard some cards. You're playing 3 Volkner as well, so Volkner is a great card in the deck. Search your deck for an item card and a lightning energy card, reveal them, and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So it's great for finding the custom catchers, especially with the Jirachi. Like, you can go Jirachi first, see if I hit a piece that I would like if you hit a custom catcher piece, Volkner just guarantees you that other piece, so you don't have to try to get it off of another Jirachi and you burn your switch cards to do that. So that's great. And then also, lightning energy is really good to the deck because you need to attack with Pikarom. You're playing 1 Cyrus Prism Star as well. This is one of the more interesting cards in the deck. So you can't play this card unless you have a lightning or a water or a metal type Pokemon in play. So Jirachi fulfills that effect. So as long as you have a Jirachi on the bench or in the active position, you can use this card. So one of the really good uses for this is board disruption. So Cyrus says your opponent chooses 2 bench Pokemon and shuffles all cards attached to them. Shuffles the others and all cards attached to them into their deck. So if your opponent has a bench of 5 and you play Cyrus, they immediately go to a bench of 2, which not only really hurts their board, but also makes like threat presentation really real. Like, let's say you have a Pikarom charged up or like you have the cards for Pikarom, right? And you have a Pikarom on your bench, you have like the Tapu Koko, you have Electromagnetic Radar, you have Thunder Mountain, you have the Wombo combo in your hand, right? You don't play any of it, and first you just play a Cyrus, and you go, what are you going to do? I don't have anything really going on my board. They don't know that you have the nuts in your hand, and they go, well, one of the cards in this format that can really hurt Pikarom is Mew. So Mew has a bench barrier, which just stops bench damage from going through, which is a massive pain for Pikarom because you do like to take that snipe knockout with Tag GX. And so what usually happens is they have to commit to their Pokemon that they need to play the game, right? Like their main attacker line, their support Pokemon line. And so the Mew, if it is on the bench, usually gets ditched, which is a great part of Cyrus because it just lets you keep with that double knockout momentum that the deck really likes to keep. So great board disruption and can really hurt your opponent, especially if they have a deck that really relies on setting up. Okay, so moving on to the energy, we're playing 11 energy. Just because, most of your attackers are pretty cheap. You also play a Thunder Mountain, which some of them attack for free, like the Zapdos, or 1 lightning less. And then you're also accelerating a ton of energy with Pikarom. So 3 is usually fine. You have 3 on the Pikarom, 3 on this, and then maybe an additional 3 on the Pikarom, 1 here, 2 here, or something, and you still have a lot left over to kind of mess with for the rest of the game. Okay, well, this has been Pikarom from the 2019 Worlds format. If you have any questions about the deck, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get to them. And as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.